Well, it's 7:31. We will get started. So welcome everybody to tonight's meeting for USA Softball in Minnesota. We've got an action-packed agenda for you, but just a few housekeeping items to start with. So first of all, if you are just joining, please turn your video off. It helps us with the meeting presentation with this many people getting online. And we have everybody on mute. That will be for the duration of the meeting. So if you do have questions, that you utilize the chat function. So we still have some cameras on. If you guys can turn your cameras off, so your video off so that we don't see you. Again, that helps out with the operation of the video. Super. So staff presenting this evening, I'm Dallas Affelbacher. I am the state umpire in chief for USA Softball in Minnesota here. We have Jason Smith who will be presenting. He's our state fast pitch UIC, and our state slow pitch UIC is Lon Sorensen. So appreciate again everybody joining us tonight. You know, with our busy and hectic schedules, obviously the 90-degree day today makes it seem like it is time for softball, so it's a good time to get things rolling. So, agenda for tonight. Yep.
Never mind. Sorry to interrupt.
You're good. So agenda for tonight, we'll go through the state umpire staff and what our role is here for you folks. We'll review the rule book and the umpire manual. We'll talk about the rule changes that have been implemented for this year at the national level. We'll review some slow pitch and fast pitch items. Talk about uniforms because there's been some changes with that program. We're going to review national championships and state tournaments, high-level invitationals that we've got available, and umpire advancement. At the end, we'll review training and education, and we'll wrap up with the registration process for 2023. So again, for those of you that are coming in right now, if your video is still on, please turn video off. And then any communication will be via chat tonight from your end, and we'll man the chat and address those questions as they come up when we get to like a stopping point. So, state umpire staff.
Hey, Dallas, real quick, we got a couple people saying that they can't hear us right now. Alan just confirmed. It sounds like it's working all right now. So,
okay. Anybody else? Cool.
I think there's just a few people that maybe have to approve the use of
computer audio
sound on their end.
Sure.
Correct.
Okay. All right, we'll keep rolling for those people that are not having technical difficulties. But state umpire staff. So we're in the process of assembling our complete state umpire staff in the state here. Currently, like I mentioned, there's Jason, Lon, and myself. And what we're going to do is establish a network of deputy UICs across the state. In the past, we've had a fast pitch and a slow pitch deputy kind of assigned to each area. But we're going to remove those monikers and designations, and we're just going to have a state deputy UIC. So why the change is because their role is going to be somewhat administrative, but as well, we're choosing officials that are well-versed and have knowledge in both games, and as well, they know where to get the resources and answer questions if things do arise. So we'll be working through that. Our main goal was to get together tonight, get all this material out to you folks, and then we'll continue to work on assembling the remainder of the state staff. So what's our role at the state level? It's to develop national championship umpires. Every year we have opportunities to send umpires, whether it's locally or across the country, to national championships. And we want to make sure those people that are getting those assignments and moving on to those level of tournaments are best suited to represent Minnesota. And we want to put them in a position where they're going to succeed. We're going to provide guidance for advancement. So if you want to know, how do I advance? How can I become a better umpire? How can I get to work state level and national championship programs? That we're there for you. We're going to, talk to you about the road for advancement and work through those procedures. We're going to ensure all umpires working USA softball tournaments and leagues are registered. We're going to talk more about this around the registration process, so we won't delve too much into it right now. And we want to make sure that we have training and evaluation opportunities for umpires across the state that want to take advantage of those to better and hone their skills. When it comes to the state tournament side of things and the fast pitch and the slow pitch side, we'll be involved in assigning the umpires for those specific tournaments with the assistance of local assigners and as well the deputies from those areas. And that's we're also going to open up a network of communication with our local assigners. We're there to help and support them. The local assigners are the people that you're working your leagues and weekend tournaments for. And we want to make sure that we're communicating with them so we know what the needs are of the umpires, as well to get input information from those folks regarding who should we be moving on, who should we be working with to put into those state tournaments and those national championships. Anything else in the chat there yet? Nope, we're good. I love it.
Nope.
All right. The 2023 rule book. Primarily, this is going to be available electronically only. A few years ago, USA Softball started to move towards this process for multiple reasons. A big thing was that if we do have changes that come up, it's easily changed and downloaded and updated online. For you to find it, it's on the USA Softball National site, which is www.usasoftball.com. Then you go to the menu function, and then official rulebook is the next thing. So we do have a small amount of paper rulebooks, and we will probably primarily be using those at our training opportunities and with newer and younger umpires. So, but the best way to get the most up-to-date rulebook is through the online electronic version. So if you are just joining us, yep, just please keep your cameras off and we will progress on. So how does that rule book work electronically? On the left side of the screen here is a screenshot of what it looks like regarding the table of contents. When you click on, let's say, Rule 8, the batter and batter runner, it takes you right to that section. So it's easy to navigate. You can quickly search through it. It's the exact same information that's in the paper side of things. You can see the highlighted gray area is where some of those changes take place for newer rules, but this is just a sample screenshot of what that online rule book looks like. And it is easily accessible on your phone, computer, or a tablet. The umpire manual. This used to be called the mechanics manual. Because there's so much information now in the umpire manual, and they put a lot of work and effort into this, it is now known as the umpire manual. Again, this is electronic. This is not available in print. And I'll show you why, because there's a lot of interactive functions built into it. It is downloadable. So again, you can go to usasoftball.com under the menu tab, umpires, and then umpire manual. For those of you that have used the paper version in the past, it's going to be a similar look and feel. But a lot of the things that have taken us from just being the mechanics manual to an umpire manual is the information that's inside of it and attached to it. So first of all, they're going to talk about points of emphasis. And this is not rules related. This is points of emphasis from being an umpire. We're going to talk about definitions of things that we do. There are social media guidelines. So there are recommendations regarding social media for proper postings and commenting, what you should stay away from and what you should not do. You know, we all get excited about our accolades and things we're doing. And a lot of us want to, you know, kind of broadcast our knowledge, but it's following the social media guidelines is a good way just to stay in good graces and make sure that you're representing USA Softball and yourself properly. So there's an area that talks about what it takes to be a successful umpire, whether it's uniform, whether it's training, whether it's knowledge. but it spells out those types of situations. Reviews the proper signals, the signals that we use in USA softball. Talks about plate mechanics. Where do we stand? Why do we stand? How do we set up to see the best strike zone? Talks what to do on the base regarding situations, whether there's runner on first, runner on third, and where we set up at, and the movement. Reviews fly ball coverage, and this talks about all these situations in both the 1, the 2, and the 3 umpire systems. So we're going to take a look here at some of the pictures that are actually inside the umpire manual. So this is a screenshot from, again, one of the pages. It looks like just a page out of paper, but you can see some different things on this page. It talks about playing the video. It spells out some situational things, what to do on a ground ball, what to do on a base hit. But reviewing starting positions, we can take a look to see the starting positions of the base and the plate umpire when there's a runner on first base only. Not only does it spell it out for you at the top of the page, it shows you a picture down in the bottom, and it's unique to every situation based on the runners and what happens with the ball. Is the ball in the infield? Is the ball in the outfield? Is it a fly ball catch? Is it a base hit? So it gives us all of those situations. And again, this is all in the online umpire manual. So like I mentioned, it reviews what's the plate umpire going to do with their responsibilities for each situation. What's the base umpire going to do with his responsibilities in the situation? What are the movements going to look like when that ball is in play and those runners are advancing bases? And the click play video to see umpire movements. So this is the most unique part. They've really reworked this for those of you that have been around since it's launched. Before, we used to have stick figures running around on the field when we push the play video. So we'll go through and kind of take a look at some of that stuff. I wanted to review this specific situation because this is a mechanic that people are having some issues with in the 2 umpire system and a runner on first base only. So starting position, that's self-explanatory. It spells that out. What happens when the ground ball happens to the infield? What does the plate umpire do? What does the base umpire do? And when there's a base hit to the outfield. So the big thing here that I want people to take away is the plate umpire, when there's a base hit to the outfield in the 2 umpire system, is responsible for the lead runner at third base and any play in the plate. So again, this is with the runner on first base. The base runner is responsible for any play at first and second, and then the last runner, which is going to be the batter runner in this situation, to third base. We'll go through. So this is what it looks like when you click on the play video portion in the online umpire manual. Lon, will you mute your mic? All right, so there it went through all the situations there regarding where the umpires are going to go and what they're going to do. Talks about umpire who has first base, second base coverage, but great update from what we've previously had, a little better than stick figures, but this is out there for every play within the that is set up within the mechanics manual, the umpire manual. So take a look at that. it's a great training opportunity for you, and you can review the situations as you deem appropriate. All right. Anything in the chat, gentlemen? Okay, just a reminder, if you do have questions, put those in the chat, and we'll keep plugging through. So rule changes for 2023. Again, these rule changes are specific to national championship play. Sometimes your league or your tournament may have specific rules to their event, but they may or may not be covered under the USA Softball rule book, depending on home run rules or how many how many people are we going to allow to bat, things of that nature. So when we talk about these rule changes, remember this is at the national championship level. And if your tournament or league doesn't have a specific rule, then these would apply. So we're going to go quick here. The men's fast pitch game, we're allowing them to use any bat now that has a USA Softball, USSSA, or WBSC certification mark. The big deal with that in the men's fast pitch world is we have a lot of international players, and we want them to be allowed to use their bats when they come to those tournaments. So in the fast pitch side of thing, any defensive player or offensive player may wear a helmet at any time, and helmets shall have a non-glare, non-mirror-like surface. So the slow pitch game, we don't care what they wear. For those of you that work slow pitch, you know some of those guys are wearing hockey helmets, lacrosse helmets, or anything to keep their face safe when they're pitching or playing some of those infield positions. So home run rules have changed, and again, this is at the national level. Your leagues and tournaments may have different rules, so make sure you're familiar with that. But when these people go on to national championship play, we've got I think just about all of them went up in a home run count. You can see men's B went from 6 to 7. Those tournaments before where they got 4 home runs, now they're getting 5. And at the men's and women's and co-ed side of things, again, we went from allowing 2 home runs to 3 home runs. And the big one is Class E used to not get any home runs, and now they do get 1. And a large part of this is the technology and the ball combination between the ball and bat. So I'm sure we'll see some discussion about this, and we'll see what it does to the postseason participation. So, all right. In Junior Olympic slow pitch, which I believe Sioux Falls is maybe hosting. I'm sorry, Indiana is hosting this year for their national championship. There's time limit on the games. So, all right, all adult JO boys slow pitch on any fair batted ball. We're talking about they do not have to run the bases just like in the adult game. In the senior side of things, in the fast pitch world, the courtesy runner can be used once per inning for any player other than the pitcher or catcher. That just gets some more participation again for those older people to continue to play the game. So here is a clarification that we do see a lot of in Minnesota. This is from the slow pitch side of things, is if a courtesy runner is used, the courtesy runner cannot be replaced by a substitute. So this was always the issue. Let's say that person gets hurt or they come up to bat. We're not going to just be able to make a substitution for that person that's already on base to bring them back to the plate to hit. So it was a clarification to clean up some of that verbiage, and that courtesy runner in slow pitch has been around for a few years now. So, all right. We are going to have Lon take over, and he's going to review some slow pitch points of emphasis. And these do come, as he stated before, or we stated, from the umpire manual. So feel free to review this stuff in that electronically online. But Lon, if you want to unmute, we'll let you take it away.
All right, perfect. Sounds good. So it's going to start talking about basically managing the illegal pitch here in slow pitch. From the umpire manual, we do have a point of emphasis of working on the illegal pitch, two aspects of it. mainly the height of the pitch, so the min and the max. And then the second one will be the stop. Three of the things right here that we really need to get on top of, especially early in the game. This also helps all of us as the umpires all year long and all through a tournament, is to get on top of these things early. So calling these illegal pitches early are good. So set up a strong top of your zone or top of your height and your minimum. Get the illegal pitch call out early, and work on that. On the side of the pitcher must stop. Make sure that we are getting a stop, a pause of a count before the pitch is actually released. Many times what we are actually seeing is the pitcher is getting the ball back from the catcher, stepping on the pitching plate. They must stop. A lot of times they're doing is they're just blowing through it and they're just going right through and not having a pause. So make them stop, and if they do not stop, it is an illegal pitch. So do a little bit of pre-pitch planning for this, and then just make sure these guys are stopping on their way through. Go ahead and move ahead there. Tune umpire system in slow pitch. Big thing that we went back to now within was last year, the year before, that we are now walking the line in the slow pitch with runners on third or with no runners on. What this is going to do is going to help us get inside better, and the game has changed quite a bit, so that the idea when we are now, instead of being in between first and second, now we're walking the line. It's given us a better opportunity to make calls at first base, getting inside and getting to the second base, and then also getting to a better distance and angle on calls at first base. So reminder is, when you're working there, work the line with nobody on or runners only on third. Review the rationale to that on page 16 and 17 of your umpire manual. That will be right there. And then also the slow pitch 2 umpire system full mechanics are on page 87 of the umpire manual. Looking at working the slot, I know many of your local leagues sometimes also will work mat ball. So I'm looking at it as we want to always work the slot. The slot is in between the catcher and the batter, whether they're left-handed or right-handed. You will be working towards the slot of the batter. One thing that I'm looking at on this end is, especially it's for the safety of you. I do see some people working the incorrect side of the slot. When we see that, it doesn't work well, and then it also doesn't look well, and then it also just doesn't functionally work well. So the position that the plate umpire assumes behind the catcher is slightly inside the corner of the plate. Please do this. So if you are working mat ball or anything like that, make sure you're not on the outside looking across. If you were working a regular strike zone game, please be working the slot, and just it helps everybody out to work that, and then also work yourself towards the betterment of your mechanics, and also working the rationale to get better on your mechanics and get towards a higher level. In our slow pitch game, usually we'll have a manager or coach come out at the beginning at your pregame conference. Work with that manager and the coach. Sometimes there'll be multiple people that will come out to that meeting. Please try to designate at least one person on each side who is the person that you're going to talk to about calls, about the game. If they have any questions, designate a person that you're going to talk to, and them only about issues or anything that would come up during the game. Casual conversation, obviously, between players and stuff like that is, acceptable, but you're not going to get into a conversation or anything like that with the major players about maybe a call at second base that nobody liked. If somebody has a problem with that or they want to have a question, have the manager or the coach come out and have the representative come out and work them through that. Really simplifies your game management skills, and it will just make your life a lot better. And then also it'll help us work and teach the additional teams that we're going to just kind of have that across the state as kind of a uniform mechanic for us. So 5-second pitch. Last year, I believe we went to this, is that now instead of now in between pitches, we have 5 seconds versus 10. So when the catcher throws the ball back to the pitcher now has 5 seconds to release the next pitch after receiving the ball, or from the time that you, as the plate umpire, call play ball. If they do not do that in that area, it would be an illegal pitch. Work with this again. This is another thing that we just try to get to the point where we're trying to move our game moving on and get in a little bit better fashion, a little bit a better time management. But remember, we used to be at 10, now we're down to 5. And I don't see any reason why people shouldn't be able to get off a pitch in 5 seconds from the time that they get back. But that also makes sure that we have to go back to that one other thing, is making them stop. So this isn't a race, but we are going to work inside of that 5 seconds. Slow pitch opportunities. If you are a person that would like to work more weekend invitational tournaments, here's a list of tournaments on our website. If you want to work these, either contact the local, your local or regional UIC once we have those determined, or you can contact myself. What we can do is we can get you or we will contact the UIC for that tournament and looking to see if you are interested in working that, if they need umpires, and this gives you an option to kind of look at what you can work for the weekends. And then if you want to look at it, go to the Minnesota softball website under tournaments, go under adult slow pitch and take a look at all the tournaments. I believe there's about 39 of them up there right now. I believe Dan will probably have more of those up there in the next few weeks, but this is a good reference for you to find out weekend opportunities across the state all year long. Preparing yourself for premier invitational, state or national tournament. Something that we kind of touched on earlier here already is advancement of you as an umpire. If you want to get to the next level for these invitational, state or national tournaments, first of all, I think is contacting us and making sure that you want to do that, but also get into your rule book and umpire to the manual. We do need to work the manual. You need to know the rule book. These are basically the foundation of your umpiring abilities. So make sure you get into the rule book and you get into the manual. Contact your deputy UIC or the state UIC for your interest. If you want to work higher levels, we need to know that you want to work higher levels. Sometimes we will see a person and think they have the ability to work that next level, but sometimes inside them, they don't want to. We understand that if you want to work that level, that is completely fine where you want to be at. But also if you want to work the next level, make sure we know that you want to go there. And that will give us an opportunity to talk with you and start pushing you towards the next level. But with that also, just to make understanding, is be open to evaluation and observation information. We could probably, most likely, we probably come out and watch you work some games. And what I also would say is, if you're working your league games, work your league games as you work your tournament games. Your tournament games are very important, but your local leagues are just as important as your tournament games. So if you are going to hone yourself, polish it up, work your work your mechanics and try to work your game just as hard and as good as you do in your league games as you would want to do in your tournament games. And I think we'll change it over to Jason here for his fast pitch.
So real quick, we do have some questions in the chat. I'm just going to take a look at those quick. So Joe asked, what if a batter's not ready? So we're talking about the 5-second pitching rule, Joe. We use batter up and play ball as our means to get people going. Obviously, if the batter's not in the batter's box, we're not going to penalize the pitcher on that. So manage that batter that's currently at bat. Get them in the box and keep them in the box. There are rules regarding the time between pitches for batters to be in the batter's box. So please review that under section 8 of the rule book, and you can take a look at that. Matt asks, how do we get the umpire manual that keeps being referenced? And somebody replied, usasoftball.com. That is correct. And then under the menu, when you're at usasoftball.com, Matt, you can go to Umpire and then Umpire Manual, and it's downloadable right there. No charge, free for you. Somebody asked, what is a higher level? It looks like Dan Pfeffer chimed in. For slow pitch, it's the A, B, and C level. And for the youth fast pitch side of things, it's basically age group driven. So we've got 16U, we've got 18U, we've got A, B, and C levels, we have gold levels. But the whole point is if you want to work higher level of softball than, let's say, either just a regular league or a regular tournament, and you want to advance to the through fast pitch or slow pitch to the state tournament or national championship side of things, those are the things that Lon brought up we need to know. Because we want to work with the people that have interest to do so, as opposed to us trying to go find individuals. It's easier if you come to us. Chris Collins chimed in that there's several assigners have posts for games they're looking to fill on the Facebook board, and he posted that in the chat. So good questions from everybody. I'm going to put myself on mute, and then we'll bring Jason Smith on to talk about some
fast pitch points of emphasis. A couple years ago, about 2 years ago, USA Softball Minnesota, along with MYAS and Gopher State Baseball, implemented a zero tolerance policy. In conjunction with each other in Youth First, we came up with a zero tolerance policy that is in complete support of umpires for any bad behavior by either the coaches or the parents or any fans of the game. The coaches are reminded yearly, multiple times a year, that they are in charge of any behavior by their parents as well. In the past, we haven't had a formal ejection report that has been available for the officials to fill out. We have made that available now on the mnsoftball.com webpage, and we'll reference that here in a little bit. But there's an official online form that the umpires go and fill out some basic information, and that allows us to, from the state office to go and read through it and communicate with the communities in which the coach, the fan, has been ejected, and as to what their penalties will be from that point forward. Zero tolerance policy. As an official, fast pitch official, you have 3 opportunities to provide warnings to the coach. For the first offense, you can give a verbal warning to the offending coach. For the second offense, go ahead, Dos. If a coach continues and is being a little belligerent, you can say, "Coach, that's enough. Now this is your second offense, and out will be assessed to your team at the time at their next at bat, or if they're at bat, an automatic out will be assessed." And for the third offense, the coach and or the fans will be ejected and must leave the facility right away. Zero tolerance policy also, we're putting the most harsh punishments that we can in effect in regards to anybody that we don't want repeat offenders. So any ejection of a coach will result in a 3-game suspension or a 7-day suspension, whichever one is longer. So a lot of these teams will play multiple nights a week. They'll play multiple games in a weekend. So if they're in a tournament, they're going to be suspended for 7 days and not just the 3 games that they may play on a Saturday. If they play a Monday and a Wednesday in a 12U or 14U league, they're going to be suspended for 7 days instead of just those 3 out of 4 games that they would have been playing. So understand that you have our full support behind you. If a coach or a parent is ejected a second time, it results in a 30-day suspension from all softball activities being around their kid, their team. So understand that a second ejection is an extremely harsh penalty. And then obviously the next step is if you get ejected the 3rd time, it results in a lifetime ban from coaching. Hopefully this steers away any coach, parent, or spectator behavior that would result in this type of action. The zero tolerance policy applies to all USA JO and youth fast pitch leagues and tournaments. It applies all the way up through the state tournament. It does not apply to any national tournaments. This is just a state governed policy. It's a great practice as officials when we go to the pregame meeting at the plate with the 2 coaches. Just simply remind them, coaches, you are in charge of your fans and your behavior on the field and off the field. Here's a quick snippet of the opening page of the ejection report. Shows up such as this. This is Youth First Alliance, and then obviously we're all in this together with MYAS and Gopher State Baseball. So everybody from across the state that runs any youth organizations from those any youth sports in those organizations are all on the same page, and the penalties are the same across the board.
Okay, thank you, Jason. In the chat, Dan Pfeffer, I think you're on here still. There's a question that asks, has this policy been clearly communicated to all the leagues and tournaments? And Dan said yes, all JO leagues are aware. So I'm going to expound on that. So all the leagues that are governed under USA Softball, they all have been communicated this, and as well, obviously, the MYAS and the Gopher State Baseball leagues. Everybody understands that is an official or runs one of these programs, or even as a player or as a coach, that we are in a shortage for officials. And unfortunately, a large part of that is being driven away by unruly behavior. So we put this plan in place a few years ago, and it was stemmed from another sport because it was being done in another sport. So we talked about what additional tools can we give our umpires on the field to help them manage their game when they're having difficulty with coaches or fans. Now, keep in mind, this is only for the youth side of things. This does not apply to adult softball. And Jason referenced to, this is only something we're doing in the state of Minnesota. So if you move on to a national championship or something outside of the state, this doesn't apply, but this is at the state level. We're trying to give you more tools as an official to do your job and to shut down any types of issues that we're having with coaches or fans. So, and that's why that's the extent of our specific fast pitch discussion today, because it is such an important topic And we want you to know that you have the tools to be able to go out and manage your games, because we appreciate you as officials and the game needs you as officials. All right. So uniforms. I'm gonna back up a little bit. The uniform program has changed a bit. The design of the shirt, as far as the styles you're seeing here, hasn't changed. The logo hasn't changed. But what happened was in 2017, when USA Softball rebranded and launched the new line of shirts, we were partners with Adam Sports. Adam Sports had some major supply issues the past year and a half. I don't know why. I mean, supply chain issues have happened everywhere. But the big thing is USA Softball was kind of left holding the bag in getting new shirts out to people, because they were informed, hey, shirts are on their way. They're on the boat from China. Adams kept dragging this on and finally did not deliver. So unfortunately, we have been and are currently, at least within the state, we're low to no supply on shirts for new umpires or to replace your current shirts for current umpires. The good part is USA Softball did secure a new vendor in Champro Sports, and they are providing the shirts. I haven't seen the shirts yet myself. We're going to place an initial order here now that they are available, to get a allotment of them in state, which will house at the Medina office for new officials and other officials looking to replace their shirts and get new ones. But so there's been some holdups, and this has been going on for, I'll say, a 10-month period where the supply chain literally came to a screeching halt for us to get uniform shirts. So as we get that information, just like we did with tonight's meeting, we'll use that same platform and email you folks out to let you know that they're in stock, where you can get them at in state here, so you can go touch them, feel them, try them on, make sure they fit for size. And then we'll have other items in stock as well at the headquarters surrounding USA branded softball umpire gear. There's some chat questions there, guys.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, one question that was brought up here by Jeff, bringing up and asking the question back to the automatic out for the second offense. Would we take the bat out of the hand of the next batter, or just call him out?
So I got that. I'll go back to it here. So specifically, Jeff, in the youth side of things, an out will be assessed to the offending team, but not to an individual player, right? So we're talking about the youth game. We don't want to take the bat or net bat away from somebody that's a youth player because their coach or parents are acting up. So we're not going to penalize them, but they're going to receive an out, and that's going to be the line in the sand where the coach should be like, hey, you're right. Like, okay, I got my verbal warning. I still kept talking. We're dealing with the same issue here. The coach isn't quieting down. Now we got the second out, or we have an out in the second offense, and they need to understand, like, they're out of line and it's got to stop. And that's the whole reason why we had to attach a penalty to it. And again, we don't want to penalize the players because they're there just to play the game, but we need to address those problems going on. And then we're giving the coach every opportunity for, before we eject them. Now I'll just touch on this a little bit further. Jason did a good job. This is for situations where traditionally an ejection isn't deemed, right? But it's a situation where a coach keeps hounding and harping on the same issue over and over. When we have those issues where we're going to go immediately to ejection, they're swearing at people, they're throwing things. There's those scenarios where we're immediately going to eject somebody. We don't need to go through this process in the youth game. We can go right to ejection. This is just an additional tool to help you manage those difficult situations where we need to let coaches know, like, we're done. We don't want to hear it anymore. And we've given them every opportunity. So good question, Jeff. What's the next one?
Another question came up here from Doug. Why not apply the zero tolerance rule to slow pitch softball, one of the most abusive sports for officials?
Okay. Good question, Doug. Maybe we look forward, maybe we look to do that in the future. And Lon touched on some good game management tips before. But based on your suggestion, I think this is something we'll talk about, because yeah, in the adult game, whether it's fast pitch or slow pitch, we're dealing with 11 people on each side that want to be a coach. We're not dealing with one adult and 10 youth players. We're dealing with adults, and everybody wants to be in charge, even though nobody wants the responsibility. So Doug, I appreciate the input, and that is something we're going to look into.
Another question on the automatic out. If the automatic out is assessed as the third out of the inning, will the same batter come back up the next inning?
I would say yes, just from a man, again, we don't want to take their bat away and penalize the player because we're having issues with the coach. So yeah, just like if somebody's thrown out on a steal, the same batter is going to come up. We're just going to put an out down in the book, and we'll bring that same person back to bat the next inning.
Yep. Phil made a comment here. It's, in regards to the zero tolerance policy, sometimes, especially at tournaments, unruly fans may not be affiliated with either team. In that case, Phil, we would ask that the tournament director be involved directly with that.
We good on chat?
Yep.
Yeah, it looks good to me.
Okay. All right, we'll keep moving on. So national championships. So Minnesota, this is year 25 or 6 of me officiating. Every year we have had fabulous opportunities to send umpires to national championships, whether it's because we're hosting them, whether it's because we actually have high level of play in Minnesota in all the games, the adult, the youth, the fast pitch, the slow pitch side. But historically, we've been able to send numerous umpires on an annual basis to national championships. And we want to continue that. Here is a list of umpires that went on to national championships last year and the locations they went to. This first page, for the most part, these are all at-large national championships where all the travel is paid. You're usually there for 3 to 4 to 5 days, sometimes a little longer in the fast pitch world. And everything's taken care of, hotel, transportation, and obviously game fees for you. But it's a great testament to our officials that we get to send people to all these high level tournaments, both in the fast pitch and the slow pitch world. Down at the bottom, like I mentioned, in the men's C slow pitch side of things, that was a national championship, but Minnesota was able to host that this past year. So we had an opportunity to send some people to that. That one does rotate around the country, but every few years it does come through Minnesota. So we were fortunate that way. The northern side of things is basically like a regional tournament. So when we host the Northern Nationals tournaments, whether it's in the fast pitch or the slow pitch world, we are primarily tasked with sending umpires forward. We get first opportunity. If there's still openings available, then we'll reach out to surrounding states within our area, the Dakotas, Wisconsin, Iowa, and solicit some of their umpires. But obviously we like to fill these things with our umpires because, one, they're deserved, and two, we're going through the process of hosting these events and putting in the work. So we want to see our people get rewarded by that as well. Last year we hosted the men's D Northern slow pitch at Treasure Island, and also the girls 18B Northern. And again, that was down in North Mankato. There have been some special events that aren't truly national championship games or play that have been put on the past few years that we get opportunity to send people to. Those are listed down at the bottom, with the Alliance Cup 10U and 12U event that was hosted in Oklahoma City, and the All-American Games, which again was hosted in Oklahoma City. So had an opportunity to send some folks out of state for that. And again, being that at-large position, all their travel accommodations were paid for, and then obviously game fees, and they got to go to Oklahoma City and work in the stadium, which is a great time. So lots of opportunities. We're going to take a look at what we have this year going on in Minnesota for national championships, and then some other opportunities aside from that. So this year we're actually hosting the men's major fast pitch tournament. That's going to be down in North Mankato the first weekend of August. We're hosting the men's super slow pitch event and AA. They run those on consecutive days. So the super will run for 2 days, and then the AA will run for 2 days. But those that'll be hosted in Shakopee towards the end of August. This year, the 10U and 12UA girls fast pitch national championship. So this is teams coming from all across the United States. This is not a northern or regional event, but this is teams from across the entire United States will be coming to North Mankato. And that will be in, I believe, July. Rochester is hosting the 10UB girls fast pitch northern. So that's more of a regional event. That'll be in Rochester. And then as well, Rochester is also hosting the 14UB Northern National Championship. So lots of opportunities for in-state umpires. And we'll kind of talk about in a second here how we're going to choose and select and get input on people to send to those events. So at-large national championships. These are the high-level tournaments, the highest ones that USA Softball has to offer, that we get opportunities to make recommendations for annually. And this is, again, where your travel is paid for, whether it's your flight or your driving, your accommodations when you get there, obviously game fees. But these are some of the highest level tournaments within USA Softball that you can umpire. This year, the JO Cup, which is the highest level youth tournament, 18 and under, 16 and under, is going to be held in Polk County, Florida. The 18 and 16 gold tournaments are going to be in Oklahoma City. And again, that's going to be at the Hall of Fame complex. The men's A and B slow pitch will be down at the Hall of Fame complex. C this year is out in Salem, Virginia. And the women's open is being hosted in Columbus, Georgia. So as I mentioned, these are events that we put in nominations for. And then based on performance from previous tournaments, our recommendation, our regional UIC's recommendation, Steve Riswald, and other communications, that's how they determine who's actually going to be chosen based on those recommendations that are put into place. So requirements for working a national championship coming out of Minnesota. Our process is you're gonna get a recommendation from your local assigner or the state deputy UIC that's kind of covering your area. That's where we're gonna have those state deputies when they're in place working with your local assigner to take those recommendations, potentially get out to see you. But that's going to be step one. And again, your local assigner is the individual that's assigning you your league games and your weekend tournament games. So when you are selected or would like to attend a national championship, we're going to ask you to attend some of our high-level weekend tournaments and state championships for a formal evaluation. If we're going to send people out of state to represent Minnesota, we want to make sure that both on and off the ball diamond, that they are a good representation of our umpires and the group that's came before them and the group that's going to come after them, and to keep paving that way for us to get those national championship opportunities. You are required, if you are chosen for the national championship, to complete a background check and safe sport. So because we are affiliated with the Olympic Committee, because USA Softball is the national governing body of softball as recognized by the Olympic Committee, safe sport and those background checks do have to be completed. Again, this is for people that are chosen to go to a national championship. So there are a couple steps you will have to go through, and we'll assist you and guide you through the way and down the path of how to get these things done. Because there's a little bit of time commitment to go through the safe sport functions, and the background check is pretty cut and dried to submitting your information. But when you are chosen to work a national championship, whether it's a Northern National or truly a national championship, you do have to have those things completed before you can accept that assignment officially via contract. And like I mentioned, we're looking for people who are going to represent Minnesota umpires both on and off the ball diamond. You're going to pave the way for those coming after you. And we want you to be a good representation of the people we've already sent to national championships. There's a lot that goes in, there's a lot of pride. So that's where we're going to ask a few things of you. And it's going to be to go and get looked at some of our tournaments. Whether it's the slow pitch side, we've got a list of tournaments that we'd like you to participate in, so you can get experience in the 2 and the 3 umpire system. And the same in the fast pitch side of things. All of those at-large tournaments are 3 umpire system driven. We want to make sure before we send you off that you're ready to go to a 3 umpire level tournament. So you do well, and again, that you represent Minnesota well. Anything in the chat, gentlemen? Okay, thank you. All right. Training and education. These are key things within the softball umpiring world, regardless how many years you've been officiating. I mentioned I'm 26 years. I think Lon's on the same pace as me. Jason's probably even a little longer. Is he? Yeah. All right.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, it's the gray. So, but we're learning every day. Honestly, we're still bettering our game, trying to get better, learn new things. And we've already discussed a few of the great options you have as far as educating yourself and becoming a better official. We're doing this virtually this year for multiple reasons. In the past, we've held regional clinics where we've came out and we've that classroom style in front of you before and try to communicate this information. And it wasn't, I'll just say, the most productive way now that we have other means available. So we've kind of gotten away from we're going to go host 17 clinics across the state. What we are doing is for those local assigners that are already hosting a meeting, we're going to partner with them and assist them if they would like our support. We'll come and talk about USA Softball. We'll talk about the registration process. We'll talk about some of these things face to face. But this is not the media source for us to teach you how to call balls and strikes or talk to you about outs and safes. This is more informational and classroom level type material. So for us to get better on the training education side of things, there are a lot of options out there that you have access and resources to. So number one is the rule book. Getting in the rule book as frequently and as often as you can, especially when you're a new umpire. Not only does it build confidence because you have that information and you're the subject matter expert, but it helps you call the game the right way. A lot of us had played ball before becoming officials, and we learned the game as a player. But as we transition into an umpire, we understand that learning the game as a player is different than learning as an umpire, both from the rule perspective and just how the game is played. So, but getting in the rule book on a regular basis is your number one training and education opportunity. Number two, I think we've mentioned it 12 times already tonight, is the umpire manual. There's nothing better out there that I found that's interactive, that has the most detail, that you can read. It shows you videos and pictures. The version that I had playing didn't have audio on it, except when you do play it through the downloaded manual, it will play the audio for you. I believe it literally just steers you to a YouTube page where there's audio and it talks about things. So you get all different versions of input into your brain, because we understand people learn differently. Some people say, I can't learn by just reading it. Well, great. Then this is for you because there's videos with commentary. So get in that umpire manual. It talks about the 1 umpire, the 2 umpire, the 3 umpire system, what it takes to be a good umpire. We kind of went through the list on that already, but that is something you have immediate access to and can assist you in becoming a better umpire immediately, even before you step on the ball diamond. When you go on to a national championship, you are formally and officially evaluated. You get a written evaluation form that's mailed to you electronically, so emailed, it's weeks after you complete your national championship. But the whole point is, during your national championship, you're having discussions with the UIC about things that are going to end up on the evaluation, both good and bad. We want to point out the good things that we do in officiating. And I'm not going to say it's the bad things, it's the things we need to improve on that we really need to focus in and hone in on. When we umpire, the expectation is we're already doing everything correctly. So it's tough just to go and tell somebody, hey, good job trailing that batter runner, oh, by the way, you forgot the play was at third base. So some of those things get lost when we try to do the sandwich method of good, give you something good, here's something else, that we need to improve on, and give you something good again. We lose that message. So when you go to national championships or you have the opportunity to be evaluated, please be open. The whole point isn't to tell you what you're doing bad because anybody wants to get on your case. It's because you're doing everything else right already. So we just want you to know that here's the next step. Here's what you need to work on next, and start ticking those things off. But when you do go to a national championship and you get those evaluations back, take a look at those items that are listed on there and focus on correcting those. And then you're done with them. You fix those things and you can move on to the next few things. But it's a great educational process for yourself because it comes from live games. Like, this is stuff that's happening on the field that somebody's observed and has taken the time to let you know about to help you get better. So when we have state championship and we have some high level weekend tournaments, be open to observations and input. It's not going to be as formal as the national championship evaluation, usually because there's more fields, there's more umpires, there's a lot more time going on. You're not there for the entire weekend. You're coming in to help out with 4 games or 6 games, as opposed to being there the entire weekend. But be open to those observations and input from those UICs and those veteran umpires that are there, because they're there to help you get better. So after your games, post game with your partners and crews. And when I say crews, not only the people that you're on the game with, but hear what other people are talking about that were on other ball diamonds that may have had issues, concerns, or what they did well, and participate in those conversations and discussions, because that's another great opportunity to educate yourself and learn what it takes to be a good official. The past couple years, we have been fortunate to partner with some groups to have summer evaluation tournaments. And what this is, it's a multi-date tournament where evaluators are on site on the ball diamond, that you are either working the 2 umpire or 3 umpire system, and this is in the fast pitch side of things, and you have an evaluator at your field watching every pitch of your games. We're still discussing and determining if we're going to have these opportunities this year. Jason Smith is kind of the driving factor in that from the fast pitch side of things. But if we have these opportunities again this year, we will certainly communicate that out. So these are traditionally paid games. You're not donating your time. It might be a little less pay than working a regular tournament, but the whole point is that you're there to get better and receive that evaluation and feedback. And we've got somebody there watching you for every pitch of your game. If your assigner comes out and asks them to, they can observe and evaluate you as well, whether it's at a tournament, at a league game, to see what you need to do to get better on the ball diamond. Again, there's no better way to take a look at how somebody's doing than in live game situation. Our game is extremely situational, and a lot of the stuff that we talk about in theory or in a classroom type setting, it just doesn't apply or resonate as it does on the ball diamond. So if your assigner is there to give you observations and evaluations, again, at tournaments or league games, certainly take advantage of that from the umpire perspective. And finally, another outlying training tool is the USA Softball Umpire Exam that's published every year, and it's traditionally based on items and issues that people have had previous years difficulty with, and problem areas across the board. So utilize the USA Softball Umpire Exam. Again, this is posted on the USA Softball site, and feel free to bounce that off, and it helps you get in the rule book as well. All right. So kind of the final educational side of things is the National Umpire School. It is held, usually there's one within our region, and our region consists of North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Minneapolis, and Minnesota, but it's usually held in the springtime. Here you can see the Bismarck is hosting one coming up here, April 21st through 23rd. But every year there's one held regionally. The National Umpire School from the USA Softball side of things is usually you arrive on Friday, you depart on Sunday. You have both classroom and I'll say gymnasium or on-field training. There's not usually games being played, but it gets you to the point where you can be making calls, making signals, talk about positioning and mechanics on both the bases and the plate. They may have some pitching, they may have some batting, but it is 2 days of exceptional education. And if you're looking to become a better official, it's a great opportunity. You will have a small cost involved in attending the class, the umpire school, both your own personal travel if you do that, and as well, usually there's a small nominal fee. That way they can cover some meals and umpire gifts and things for you. So if you have questions about that, the National Umpire Schools as well are listed on the usasoftball.com site under umpires. All right, anything in the chat, gentlemen? All right, so we're getting to the end here. So umpire registration. So I'd like to talk about why we do this. And what happens is there are leagues and tournaments that decide for financial, economical, insurance, all sorts of different purposes, promotion, marketing, I could go down the list, why they want to register with USA Softball. When they do that, the league is registering or the tournament with USA Softball, and so are the teams. But in order for that league or tournament to receive all the benefits of registering their teams and their league with USA Softball or tournament, the umpires that are working those games also need to be registered with USA Softball. If they're not, they lose all value and benefits to registering with USA Softball. So if you are working in the USA Softball League or tournament this year, you need to be registered the same as the league, and the teams need to be. And that's as simple as I can put it. If you decide you're not going to register for some reason, and this is where our deputy staff and ourselves will be working with those local assigners, and you end up on one of their ball diamonds, you put their program in jeopardy, and the assigners will be communicated with and figure out ways to address it. So the whole point is, if you're going to work games, go on and register, mnsoftball.com. Here's what the site looks like. We've kind of shown a couple screenshots of this already tonight, but under umpires on the mnsoftball.com page, you can see umpire registration is under umpires on the left. And this is a new process for this year. We have tried to streamline it and make it as simple and cut and dry and easy for you folks to go on and register. Here's the thing, technology changes and we have access to easier, simpler things to speed up this process and streamline it. And currently this is the best way. We've used some different platforms in the past, but this is my understanding, the most easy aside from the umpire and as well from the administration side behind the scenes. So you can see it says new umpire registration form. That's everybody. Everybody applies through that the same way. If you have questions on it, in the middle of the page, it says how to register umpire video. You can literally go watch that and register online. At the end of it, which is different than what we've done in the past, is you'll pay right then and there via a credit card or electronic form of payment. I believe there's some other options out there. I'm not going to name them because I'm not completely clear on all of them. So very streamlined, easy to do. It can be done on a mobile version. It can be done on a computer, your phone, your tablet, you name it. It's easy to do. But go on and register again before you are scheduled to work any of your games, or once you get scheduled, before you step on the ball diamond. Please make sure this process is completed. Like I said, aside from that, if you have questions, you can email, call, text any of us. So I see a question in the chat. Is that one we got to take care of? No, we're good. Okay. All right. On that note, it's 8:42. We're done a little early. We are going to hang on to address any chat questions that you might have, and we'll stay live for that. Aside from that, that's all the content and material that we have to deliver tonight. So we appreciate you all for taking the time tonight. We will post this electronically. We recorded this as you got on. It said it was a recording. So we will both post this out on a drive, and we will email it just like we did how we were having the meeting tonight. We will email that out, and you'll have access to it in the future. All right. So I'm going to address some of the questions in the chat right now because I've got it up. All right. Phil, thank you. You are welcome. Matt, when we register, does our assigner get notified? No, the process will be, we will communicate with the assigners to see who they're using for officials on USA softball leagues and tournaments. And then we'll bounce that off our list of who is currently registered. So Norman, do we get ID cards? Norman, you do not get an ID card. It's not something we need to provide, but like I said, we will be communicating with those assigners to make sure the umpires being assigned games will be registered. Ella, how many games do we need to shadow before we can by ourselves? That is not something that we do, Ella. That might be your local assigner. So you can check with whoever's assigning your games. I see Jason Smith just came off of mute. Is that something you're doing?
Yes, I'll check in with your local assigner that is going to be assigning you games and see what they would like for you to do.
Okay, perfect. Lisa, it looks like you're asking about some dates of work or just where and when to be. That would be something to take up with your local assigner, whoever is assigning you your games. You're welcome. Thank you. All right. Again, for those of you signing off or about to, we thank you very much for coming out. We appreciate your time, obviously your efforts to officiate, because we can't play those games without officials out there. And anything we can do to support you, we would certainly like to hear from you if you need anything. Chris Collins did just repost in the chat for, I believe, I don't know if it's a slow pitch or fast pitch, but there's a group of assigners out there that have postings for games that are available. So
Yeah,
if you-
I was gonna ask that question, Chris. Is that geared towards slow pitch or fast pitch officials? Okay,
There.
thank you. Slow pitch.
Thanks, Charlie.
Yeah.
And Chris recommended making one for fast pitch. And Dan chimed in that he wants to do that as well, our state commissioner. All right, is there any testing that we have to take before we can umpire? Addie, there's no official testing that you need to take. Each and every assigner that you're working for might have some different level of minimum criteria. But there's nothing officially that you have to complete before you can be umpiring.